Welcome back, everyone. No matter where you are, no matter what time it may be. I hope y'all are doing well out there. There are places out there, places where the night doesn't feel empty. It feels almost aware. Not loud, not violent, just aware. And the people who sent in these emails all noticed the same thing, in different states, at different times, with no connection to each other at all. Something was out there, watching them, just standing where a normal animal would not stand, and looking at them in a way that nothing should. These encounters don't match. They don't follow any pattern. They don't build toward anything that makes sense. They're just pieces of a puzzle. Quiet moments where someone stepped into the wrong patch of dark and found out they were not alone. No explanations, just a creature that should not exist, standing exactly where it shouldn't be, doing exactly what it shouldn't do. Before we get started, if you're listening and you've had an encounter of your own and would like to share it, either privately with me or here on the channel, send me an email. Reach out. I'd love to hear your story. My email address will be linked in the description below this video. Alright, legends, lock in, and let's begin. Everyone grab a drink. Lock your doors and windows. Hit the lights. And let's get started. Reels. This happened last September out here in Virginia, down at the bottom of my driveway where my gate is. I've never told anyone except my brother because people around here run their mouths too much. But I know what I saw that night, and I haven't been the same since. I live at the dead end of a gravel road, nothing but woods behind me all the way into the Jefferson Forest. I've lived out here my whole life. I know every sound, every trail, every animal that runs through this area. I've seen them all. None of that ever bothered me. That night I kept hearing a metal clank like something tapping my gate chain, so I grabbed a flashlight and walked down the driveway. It was around 11:30, because I remember I paused the TV exactly when I went out. It was a normal night. There was nothing strange about it. About halfway down I heard movement in the trees on my right side. Not the normal kind either. This was like it was hitting the ground soft on purpose. I stopped walking, and the sound stopped instantly, the same second. That's what made me think it wasn't a deer or anything wild. I called out, and no one answered. I went to the gate anyway, to check it. Everything was fine. I turned around to go back, and right then I felt a heavy pressure like someone was watching me from across the road. I turned the flashlight toward the ditch, and when the beam hit that thing, I swear it felt like my heart just locked up on the spot. It was standing behind a thin tree, but it wasn't hiding at all. It was tall as hell, and I'm 6 foot. This thing was easily 1.5 feet taller than me, maybe more. It had huge shoulders. Its upper body looked like a person built for a football game or some type of linebacker. But the stance was off. It was leaning forward, kind of like it was going to fall on its face at any minute. It had extremely long arms as well. Its face had a muzzle that came out in the front like a wolf, but the eyes were set more like a man's. The ears were pointed, but they were turned sideways like it was listening to something else besides me. When my light hit the eyes, they reflected an amber color. I didn't run. I knew not to. We stared at each other forever, or what felt like forever. When it finally moved, it just moved one step to the side, and I saw the legs then. They were bent backwards like a dog's, but the whole thing was standing upright and balanced, like it had been standing that way its whole life. That's when something in me broke loose. I started backing up the driveway, slowly. I never took the light or my eyes off of it. I didn't want it making a move when I wasn't looking. It was just watching me as I went back up the driveway. It never moved. I made it almost to the porch before I turned and walked fast the rest of the way. I got inside and locked the door. I stood there listening, but nothing ever followed. It never came up the driveway. It never tried to come closer to the house. The next morning I walked the whole area. The ground was too hard for tracks, but I knew exactly where it had been standing. I still can see it in my head, as plain as day. The height, the shape, the way it held its arms, the way its chest moved when it breathed. Everything about it is burned into my memory. The part that I'm not watering down because I'm not confused at all. This was not a bear. It wasn't a person. It wasn't any animal that belongs in these woods. I don't care who believes me or who doesn't. I know what a wolf looks like. I know what a bear looks like. I know what a man looks like. This thing was a Dogman. I saw it clear as day. Nothing will ever convince me otherwise. I don't go down to that gate after dark anymore, and I don't walk that driveway unless I've got a light strong enough to hit the trees. I'm not scared of living here, but I'm not stupid either. If it wanted to hurt me, it would have. It didn't. It just made sure that I knew it was there. That alone tells me a lot more is going on in these woods than most people realize. Thank you, Reels. Eldon. Hey, Reels. First off, I'm not doing this to try and convince anyone of anything. I already know what I saw. I've spent too long trying to pretend I didn't know and to come to terms with it. This happened in Colorado back in 2016 when I was living outside Silverton. I was 27. I'm 36 now, and I still haven't been able to shake the memory off me. Back then I worked for a small construction outfit that did jobs up in the mountains. Remote cabins, trailhead structures, little utility sheds, stuff like that. Most of our work sites were up in the high forest areas where you barely see any more people all day. I loved that job. It was quiet, cold, clean air, no traffic, no crowds. The night I'm talking about, we had been repairing a wooden outbuilding near a trail junction about 6 miles outside of town. We were just fixing slats, replacing some hinges, and securing it for the winter season. We were supposed to finish before dark, but the boss had to run back to town for supplies and left me there to finish tightening hardware and packing up. The sun went down fast. The temperature dropped even faster. I remember hearing the wind pick up and thinking I need to hurry because being alone in those mountains after dark isn't smart, even if there's not a giant walking wolf running around. Around the time I got the tools back in the truck, the woods started getting this weird pressure sound, like the wind was blowing harder than it actually was. It wasn't spooky, it was just strange. It was a thing that you notice, but you ignore it because you've been out there 100 times before. I was locking up the back of the truck when I felt something vibrate under my boots. It felt like a heavy thump. I didn't think step at the time because it was just too heavy. I didn't expect to see something of that size. But it was close enough that I heard it clearly. I glanced back toward the trees behind the outbuilding, but it was already getting so dark the trees just looked like one solid wall of black. I grabbed my flashlight from the seat and turned it on, and I didn't see anything. I just chalked it up as an elk or maybe a moose moving off somewhere deeper in the woods. I've run into both. Not a big deal. I was just about to get in the truck when I heard branches moving off to the left. It wasn't breaking, they were just being moved, like something was pushing through them, slowish but deliberately. I shined the light over, and that's when everything inside me just locked up. Between two aspen trunks, maybe 30 yards away, stood something huge. And I mean huge in a way your mind doesn't know what to think when you see it. It was standing upright, shoulders forward, long arms hanging down. The head was... everything about it was wrong. My first thought wasn't even fear, it was confusion. My brain was trying to overlay a person, but couldn't make it match. The moment I lifted the flashlight a little higher and hit its face, my stomach dropped so hard I almost fell forward. Its snout. Yeah, a snout. I'm not calling it anything else, that's what it was. It stuck out just enough to show the jaw wasn't human. The ears were pointed, sitting high on the head almost like a German shepherd, but a lot thicker. The eyes reflected back this yellowish amber color. It wasn't super bright, it was more like burning tree sap. I was froze. I wasn't scared stiff, just completely short-circuited, beyond scared stiff. My brain didn't know whether to back away or just stand there. It didn't move for several seconds, it just stared at me. I could see it breathing steadily, so I knew it was real and not my imagination. It was breathing in this heavy rhythm that just didn't seem like a normal thing. Nothing I'd ever seen before, anyway. It wasn't panting, it was controlled. This thing was calm. More than I could say for myself. I took a step back toward the truck door. That's when it leaned out a little more from behind the trees, and the light hit it, the bottom half of it. That's the moment everything clicked. This thing wasn't trying to look human. It wasn't even pretending. It was standing the way it naturally stood, and its legs bent backwards like a dog standing up, but carried all the weight without shaking. This wasn't my mind playing tricks, and no, it wasn't a bear. I knew immediately I was looking at the thing people call Dogman. I'd heard the word maybe once or twice, but never really cared to pay attention. I care now. I kept backing up until my hand found the handle of the truck door. I didn't want to turn my back to it, but I didn't want to trigger anything. I didn't want to break eye contact. It was sizing me up the entire time. I could feel it. When I finally got inside the truck, I shut the door slowly. I tried not to slam it. I still had the flashlight in my hand. I kept trying to point it out the window, but I didn't see the creature anymore. It had apparently moved back a few feet into the woods, just enough to hide. I turned the key, and when the truck started, it was louder than any other time. It was probably because I was freaked out. I thought that might make it charge or react, but it didn't. Instead, I saw some slight movement again. It wasn't coming forward, but turning around and heading off into the woods. It lost interest, or there was something else out there that it cared more about than me. I backed the truck up the dirt path almost half a mile before I turned around. Once I hit the road toward Silverton, I did not stop. When I got home, I just sat in the driveway with my head on the steering wheel trying to make sense of what had just happened. I won't work those type of sites alone ever again. If the boss needed something finished up there, I told him straight I wasn't doing it alone. I'd come up with any excuse just to avoid being up there near dark. I'm not confused about what I saw. I'm not guessing. I'm not open to other explanations. It was a Dogman. I don't care who believes it. I don't care who thinks what. I know what I looked at, and it was standing on two legs in the dark woods 30 yards away from me. I can't look at the woods or the mountains the same since. Cameron, Silverton, Colorado. Hello. Now, I'm not much for emails or typing long messages, but I've been thinking about sending this for a while. I know I should talk to someone about it, but most people don't actually listen to this kind of stuff. I think you do, so here I am. I'm not good with punctuation or any of that, so this is going to get messy and might be kind of hard for you to read. I hope that's okay. Make changes if you need to. Anyway, this happened in western Massachusetts, not far from the New York line. I own a small auto shop that's been in my family since the 80s. The building sits by itself on an old back road beside a patch of woods that go way farther than they look. I've seen every animal out here, even a bobcat a few times. There's nothing out here that gives me the creeps. This, on the other hand, this wasn't usual activity. This was something else. It was 2 years ago, October, 2 nights before Halloween. It was around 9 or 10 at night. I was at the shop late because I was finishing up a brake job for a regular who needed her car early the next morning for work. I had the radio going. One bay door was cracked open for some fresh air. About 20 minutes before I wrapped up, the radio started cutting in and out really bad. Static, then clear, then static. That part didn't bother me too much because reception out there is garbage anyway. I just turned the volume down and kept working. I heard something outside maybe 10 minutes later, walking, banging around back there behind the building. I figured it was a raccoon or maybe a stray dog sniffing around the dumpster. I grabbed a rag and wiped my hands, and I went to step out to check. The air felt strange the second I reached the door. It wasn't cold or hot, it was just heavy, like the whole place was sucking in air but not breathing it out, if that makes sense. I hadn't taken no more than 2 steps outside, and the hair on my arms and neck stood up like I walked into static electricity. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. I stopped in the doorway because something in my gut was telling me not to walk past the concrete pad. I heard the sounds again, bigger this time. This wasn't little bangs and steps, this was something big, something heavy, something walking behind the back wall of the shop. I thought someone was back there messing around, maybe trying to steal something, or dig through the scrap pile. I yelled out, "Hey, who's back there?" Just normal, not angry. Whoever or whatever it was stopped moving instantly. I waited about 5 seconds, then stepped out another foot or two. That was when I was hit with the smell. Musky, but not like a skunk. More like a wet dog that had been running and sweating. An animal smell, but not one that I recognized right away. I walked slow around the corner of the building with my flashlight in hand. I wasn't scared yet, but I was being cautious. I still thought this was a person. The light hit the gravel, then the trees, and right there between 2 dumpsters, half shadowed, but plain as day, once the flashlight hit it, was something standing upright. I don't mean crouched, I don't mean hunched, I mean standing, shoulders forward, head angled down a little like it didn't even care that I was seeing it. My brain and body both froze up for a second because I thought I was seeing someone in a costume at first, until I realized the legs were bent the wrong way like a dog's would be. But the whole upper body was tall and built and standing, balanced. No wobble at all, no moving, shifting weight. This thing was steady. When the flashlight went up to the face, that's when everything in me went completely cold. The head was canine. The snout was canine, long, thick. Not huge like a cartoon wolf, but long enough that you could tell this wasn't a man. The ears were lifted and pointed forward in a weird way. Its eyes were a pale gold color. They were reflecting enough that they did not look normal to me for some reason, even in the reflection. I didn't even think about running. I don't even know if I breathed for the first few seconds. The thing didn't seem to care about me being there and didn't even move at all. I never saw it move once. All it done was just look at me. I just kept whispering, "There's no way, there's no way," without even realizing I was saying it out loud. When it heard my voice, its ears twitched back a little, then forward again. That was the only movement. I felt my hand start to shake, so bad I almost dropped the light. I'm not ashamed to say that I urinated all over myself. I stepped back. Every instinct in me, every instinct I had was telling me, do not turn your back on this. The thing tilted its head to the right like it was trying to study me. It didn't seem aggressive, not ready to attack. It almost seemed curious. I kept going toward the bay door. It stayed between the dumpsters, never taking a step toward me or away from me. The only sound was its breathing, or my breathing. I don't really know for sure. When I finally reached the shop door, I slipped inside and shut it without slamming it. I locked it and turned off the overhead lights so I could look through the small window without being seen. It was definitely still there. It still hadn't moved, and it was still staring toward the building. After maybe a minute, it turned its whole body and walked back toward the trees. Its stride was insanely long, way too long for a person. It didn't drop to all fours, it didn't take off running, it just walked back into the woods like it lived there. I sat down on the shop floor right after it was out of sight because my legs just finally gave out. Seeing something like this will definitely affect you in ways you can't describe. I stayed there for at least 10 minutes, trying to get my breathing under control. I know what I saw. I don't know what it was, but I know damn well what it wasn't. I'm so tired of people telling me that I mistook it for a black bear. I've seen black bears since I was a kid. I've seen them in daylight and at night. This was not a bear. Not in any universe. Everyone thinks I'm paranoid because I'm spooked when I get close to behind that building alone after dark. My daughter especially thinks I'm paranoid. But I know what walked out of those woods. Nothing else fits. This had to be a Dogman. Ron, in western Massachusetts. Reels. I'm 58 years old. I've lived in Wyoming all my life. I got no reason to make anything like this up or try to scare someone. I'm not the kind of man who sits down and writes emails either. I don't really do computers much besides checking cattle auctions and the weather. So if this comes out weird, that's why. I'm only doing this. I'm only sending this because I haven't talked to a soul about it, and it's been chewing at me. And people say just talking about it can help. This happened early this spring, out near Buffalo, about 7 miles outside town where the old ranch roads cut through the open fields. I was checking a section of fence along the back side of my property. We'd had bad windstorms the week before, and I needed to see if anything got blown down. I took my side-by-side out there around 6:30 in the evening. The sun was still up, but it was dropping. You know how it gets out here. The sky goes orange and purple, and that's about it for the daylight. It'll be dark soon after. The wind was low. The air was cool. It was nothing out of the ordinary, nothing to make me feel uneasy. I parked near a fence post that had tilted sideways and started working on resetting it. I wasn't in a hurry, just had my gloves on, some pliers, and a little bit of coffee sitting on the back rack. The first weird thing I noticed was how quiet the field got. It was quiet in a way that just didn't feel normal. No wind through the grass, there was no birds calling out before bed. Even the cattle in the lower lot weren't making any sounds. It felt like the whole place just paused. I stood up and looked toward the tree line that borders my north pasture. It's not a thick set of woods, just some cottonwoods and a few pines running along the creek line. But something was in there. My instincts told me that it was in there watching me. I could feel it before I even saw anything. I took a few steps toward the creek because I thought maybe a stray cow had wandered off. But then I heard a sound that didn't match any cow, elk, or coyote I've ever heard. It wasn't a growl, it was more like this deep huff. It was powerful, like something big letting all the air out of its lungs hard through its nose. I knew right then and there I wasn't dealing with something normal. I kept looking and saw movement. It was something dark stepping forward, slowly. Big. I don't mean big like a deer or even tall like a man. I mean, this thing was big enough that the trees looked small next to it. It walked out just far enough for me to see the outline. My first thought was, that's standing too tall. My second thought was, those legs ain't right. And my third thought didn't come because my brain just stalled out after that. It stood on two legs, straight, very balanced, huge wide shoulders. The head was long in the front like a wolf's snout, but the eyes were forward like a person's. Its ears were long, pointed, and sitting high on its skull. I don't understand the Dogman. This thing looks like a walking wolf. That's the best name I would think would fit this creature. Anyway, that's just my opinion. I've run into wolves twice on this land over the decades. A wolf can't stand like that, and they're not that big. They don't look like that. They sure as hell, like I said, don't come in this size. Its chest looked thick as a damn oil barrel. Its arms were long and skinny, and it appeared to have hands instead of paws. They were almost dragging the ground, hanging past its knees. I remember thinking it looked like it could pick up a hay bale with one hand and just throw it. I just stared because I couldn't think of anything else to do. I did see the eyes and something weird about them as well. They were a burnt orange color, dull, but I only saw the color flash once. That's what's strange. It flashed like a light turning on and then going off, but when it came on I could tell it was looking straight at me. It took a step forward and the dirt under its foot thumped in a way you feel more than you hear it. It's like the ground had weight dropped on it. The wind barely moved, but the grass around it shifted like the thing displaced the air around it. I know how that sounds, and I don't care. I didn't reach for my rifle. I didn't grab the fence tool. I didn't even look away. I knew if I did anything sudden, I'd be done for. It wasn't acting afraid. It wasn't showing anger that I could see, but it was focused on me in a way that made my whole body feel like it was shrinking. I was definitely being looked at as prey. I slowly stepped back toward the side-by-side. I would not recommend anyone turning their back on any type of predator, not even once. That thing watched every inch that I moved, like it was waiting to see if I was going to run. I think it wanted me to run. I think it would have chased me down, and I don't think I would be writing this now. I think I took the sport out of the hunt, and that's why I'm still alive. When I did get to the side-by-side, I reached behind me and felt for the door handle. The second I touched it, the creature moved like it didn't like that movement. It was just a small motion, but it was enough to make me stop dead still. I held my hand there until I felt steady enough to open the door without jerking it. Then I eased it open slow and slipped inside. The whole time the creature didn't take its eyes off of me. Now this is the part where I can't tell you if it chased me, if it ran away, if it just stayed there watching, I don't know. As soon as I sat down, I shut the door, turned the key, and fired it up and took off across the field. I never looked back. Again, I have no idea where it went or what it done. Honestly, nor do I care. I just wanted to get out of that situation. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell my kids, who are grown, either. They'd think I was losing my mind, I'm sure of it. But I'm quite confident in knowing what I saw. I'm too old to mistake something like that. I know every animal that moves across these plains and hills. Whatever these things are, they're not an animal from here. They're not a man, and definitely not a bear or elk or anything people try to use as explanations. I don't care what anyone else says. You can call it what you want. I think Dogman is silly, as I said before. I saw a walking wolf. That's what I saw. I saw it as clear as I'm seeing this keyboard right now. I've tried to steer clear of that creek line, especially if I'm alone. I haven't seen it since, but I'm going to keep my fingers crossed and keep praying that I don't. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, even my worst enemy. Thanks. Harlan, Buffalo, Wyoming. Hey, Reels. I've typed this out about 15 times over the last couple years, not just for your channel, but for many others that I've considered sending it to. I've always chickened out. I just hate the idea of people thinking that I'm making something up. You get tired of being laughed at after a while. My encounter happened in 2011, and I still have nightmares at least twice a week. Once you see one, there's just no escaping it after that. I grew up in a small place right on the Arizona-Texas line. Around here, half the folks don't even lock their doors, and the other half know every bump and bend in the road by memory. The desert out here is something you don't really get unless you've lived in it. It's cold as hell at night, dry air that feels like it's pulling water right straight out of you. Miles of open nothing, where sound travels farther than you would expect. Back then I worked late shifts at a small gas station off the highway. Not a big chain station, just an old station. My shift ended at midnight. I'd drive the same back road home every night instead of taking the highway. It shaved about 10 minutes off the trip and kept me away from traffic. It was a straight road for the most part. There were patches of scrub brush, mesquite trees, and long stretches of dirt where the pavement never really got finished. I had driven that road so many times I could have done it blindfolded. This one night, though, it changed everything I thought I knew about that stretch of desert. I clocked out a little after midnight, got in my Ford Ranger, and headed toward home. The sky was clear, and I remember it was a full moon overhead. The stars were bright enough to see the edges of the mountains way off in the distance. It was a quiet night. I had the radio on, and it felt louder than usual, even when it's turned down. A few minutes into my drive, I saw something move across the road up in front of me. It was quick, fast enough that I almost missed it at first. I thought it was a stray dog or a coyote cutting across the road, but it was too big. It was tall, and it was walking upright like a person. I was forced to slow down because my mind didn't catch up with what my eyes had seen right away. I rolled forward for a bit, maybe 20 or 30 more yards. That's when my headlights hit something standing off the right side of the road in the scrub brush. Now be clear, it wasn't hiding. It wasn't crouched down trying to not be seen. This thing was standing there like a statue, like it had been waiting for me to get close enough to see it. I think it wanted me to see it. It had every opportunity, ample time to disappear, hide, go out of sight, but it chose to stand there and wait. Why would any animal do that? The headlights hit it in the face first. I don't care who thinks this sounds crazy. I'm tired of being laughed at. I don't even care. It looked like a damn wolf, standing on two legs. It had the typical canine snout. It was similar to a German shepherd's or a wolf. The eyes were dead on forward like a person's. It had wide shoulders, its chest was thick. The body looked too big to even be real. It was just too tall, too built, too stable for something standing upright like that. My chest tightened up, my hand started shaking on the steering wheel even before I realized I was braking. All I can remember is whispering to myself, no, 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 over and over, without even thinking about it. I wasn't scared like a horror movie scare. It was more like my body suddenly understood I wasn't looking at something natural. I rolled to a complete stop without meaning to. The truck idled rough because it always did in the cold. The second I stopped moving, the Dogman leaned forward just a little, almost like it was sniffing. I swear on my life, that small lean forward scared me more than anything I've ever lived through. Its shoulders rose as it breathed in. I saw the chest expand. I saw the way the moonlight hit the fur on its arms. I saw the ears turn like it was picking up sounds from different directions all at once. I saw the eyes reflect a pale, washed-out yellow. Not bright, not glowing, just alive, intelligent. I slammed the truck in reverse without taking my eyes off of it. I didn't turn around. I didn't blink. I didn't look for anything else. I backed up slow because the road was narrow, and if I swerved off into the ditch, I was done. It started walking toward the edge of the road when I started moving. It was moving slow, just one casual step, like it wanted me to know it could close the distance if it felt like it. I felt this wave of sick heat run through my whole body, fear mixed with something else, like my instincts were screaming that I shouldn't be anywhere near this thing. I finally turned the truck just enough to angle it back toward the direction I came from. Once I was lined up, I just floored it. I could barely see out my mirror from the dust, but I tried to look anyway. I did see the creature had stepped out completely onto the road now. It was just standing dead center. As it faded further and further away, it never chased me. It just watched me go. It let me go. Once I got away from there, away from it. I was weak. I felt like I'd been drained from the inside out. I didn't tell a soul. I didn't tell co-workers, not friends. I didn't tell my parents. No one. They'd all just chalk it up to a long shift, or maybe it was a weird coyote. I'm not interested in being laughed at anymore. Not interested in being told I'm crazy or I'm lying. I'm pretty confident I know what a coyote looks like. I've seen dogs my whole life. I know what people look like, as I'm a human myself. I know that sounds stupid, but some people will actually try to tell me that I saw a man. This thing was not any of those. It was a Dogman, plain as day. I saw its full body. I saw its face, its head. I saw it as clear as day in my headlights. I've never taken that road at night again. I'll drive an extra half hour before I'll roll through that area after dark. I don't ever want to see it again. And people that look for these things, people that want to see one, in my opinion, you're insane, and you don't know what you're asking for. And also be careful what you ask for. Sometimes you might get it. Sam. Friends, legends, family. There's a strange kind of silence that settles in after stories like these. Not the peaceful kind either. It's the kind that makes you notice every sound around you a little too clear. 5 different people, 5 different places. Nothing tying them together except the same creature stepping out of the dark when nobody was supposed to be there. Whatever these things are, they're not staying in one state, one region, or one type of place in particular. They show up where they want to. They watch who they want to. And they disappear before anyone else knows they were ever there. That's the part that gets me every time. It's how easily they slip back into the night, like they were never meant to be seen at all. It's frustrating. If you've had something like this happen to you, do not keep it to yourself. You can send it in. If you're new here, like, comment, share, subscribe, all the stuff that helps keep these stories coming out into the open. And please take my advice and the advice of others. People don't go looking for these things. Just don't do it. It's a terrible idea. Anyway, I want to thank you all for listening. And I especially want to thank these individuals for sending me their encounters and trusting me to narrate them. I truly appreciate it. And to the channel members as well. I can't thank you all enough for continuing to support what I'm trying to do here. It truly means the world to me. Thank you. That's going to do it for this one, y'all. Everyone, please stay safe out there. I love each and every one of you. Until next time, my friends, watch over your loved ones, keep your head on a swivel, and as always, good night.